into the meat of things, which is what all of you are here for. So I think like for Zoleka, we're not going to go into the details of G4G, where we came from and things like that. That's what happens in the training. So this meeting is really about people who are going to be leading circles or cohorts. So, so for example, you'll be part of the leadership of the VUT team. So what we're going to do is we're describing the process, and we're going to be hearing some lessons directly from people who have been active in the process. So when this is how you get on board running, contracting, or everything from contracting all the way to completing a cohort or a circle. A circle is anything that has between 5 and 8 girls. Some people push it to 10. So for example, Joyce has said, a cohort is where you have multiple circles, typically under a common institution. So for example, the University of Johannesburg or the University of Pretoria, there are multiple circles that pretty much covers yeah, girls that are all part of a common institution. So and this is a process, and we're going to walk through kind of like the details of it. Some of it we will really go through very quickly because it's pretty straightforward. And then there are other segments I want to spend a bit more time just for you to learn from the experience. I'm going to talk a little bit about the contracting with G4G, what you need to do. I'm going to talk a bit about the planning, what you need to take into account when you say, I'm thinking of setting up a cohort. We'll talk about cohort coordination. Violet, I think, will be the one leading us through that. We'll talk about how to recruit mentors. Mentors are critical. You cannot graduate the mentees without mentors. So getting the right number, but the right quality of mentors. And when I say quality, the ones that match your group is critical. You need to have a strategy for it, and you need a strategy not only for recruitment, but retention as well. Boypusa is going to tell us about that. Then we'll talk about the recruitment of mentees. Kinelwe will share with us. And then we'll talk about the delivery of the mentoring sessions, and Val, who has been on several of the sessions, will share with us. And then the last bit will be on monitoring, reporting, and evaluation. Steffi will lead us on that, and I will kind of support her on it. She's going to do the reporting side, and then I'll talk about the evaluation side of things. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of like the big things you need to know about operating a G4G circle or cohort, how to start all the way to how to execute. These are the high level steps. I'll be sharing the presentation with you so that you're able to follow. You can dig into detail. But this is the tip I will give you. The different people who are going to be covering the different sessions, it means they have experience. But during their sessions, we shall also invite additional comments. So keep track. If there's a particular area, like someone said, reporting, know that Steffi, for example, is a very, very good fallback person. And even if we don't do it in detail today, because what we're talking about is the how, even if we don't go into the details, at least you know there's someone called Steffi that you can get in touch with, or Rita, and you can follow up, okay? All right, okay. The contracting process. So just to be clear, G4G South Africa is formally registered. We have a board of directors. It means that we run as G4G is a separate legal entity. So when you contract, you are not contracting with Rita or with Val, you're contracting with the entity Girls for Girls. So we have a formalized contracting process. It's a very simple memorandum of understanding. I have a sample over here. And it's something that we try and do as early as possible. And then it's once off. Some people do it for 1 year. There's one entity that did it with us for 2 years. It's up to you. But before you contract, one of the things I say to people is, what's the need? What is it? What's the change you want to see? So for example, Lydia expressed a lot. There's a lot she wants to change. So in the contract, we shall reflect that, and we shall ask ourselves, what does that really mean? Does it mean that you need additional support and things like that? But yeah, get the contract out of the way, tick, and then it means that you have access to our materials. You can actually go out and start having a circle and a cohort under the brand name of G4G because you're entitled to. There's no fee. There's no fee that is affiliated with running a cohort or a circle, okay? Is that clear?
Yes,
okay.
It's clear.
Okay, if anyone has any questions, you put your hand up. I'm going through these little bits and pieces that I think a tick checkbox activities. I want us to spend more time on the heart of running the circles. Okay, so when planning for your circle, and I've shared this document with everyone, there's a document titled Methodology and Cohort Details. And it's a set of questions to really make you think through. If you say you're setting up a cohort in this high school, how many people do you want to cover? What age group do you want to cover? What is the thing that binds the girls that will want to make them come and be a part of G4G? How will you recruit your mentors? How will you publicize G4G in, you know, Westbury High? It's to make you think through the strategy, because it's much as G4G is appealing to us, we're already sold, we're the choir. You may have to do an extra convincing to additional people. So the cohort methodology document is a great way to start. It's something that we developed last year when we realized that some people were struggling to articulate what their cohort or their circles were going to look like. Then we also have a template, which is a work plan to help you think through your schedules. Do you want to do it once a month? Do you want to do it bi-weekly and that type of thing? We also have like a template of a budget. Things you should consider. We have both for in-person. So for example, Joyce, who is going to be meeting at a venue and that type of thing, things you might want to take into account. Transport, what about, you know, your visuals, how will they watch the video and things like that. And we've also got a template for online sessions. And then there's a session checklist, which Val is going to walk you through when we talk about planning and executing on a session. And then we have monitoring and evaluation forms. I think that's something that South Africa is pretty strong at. We did it from the day go. We had baselines that we're collecting feedback. We've refined it over time, and Steffi shall be sharing that with us. Okay, so setting up the cohorts. I think Violet, this is you.
Thank you, Rita.
Okay.
So setting up a cohort, you know, once you are excited about G4G, you think, you know what, I'm going to do this, it will be that easy, but there's a lot of work that needs to go through that.
Violet? Violet? I don't know whether we have lost her. Is it me or can you guys hear her?
We can't hear her.
Okay,
it's like we've lost her. Violet, one more time, we try? Okay. Violet, if you come back, let me know. Let me just do a bit, let me get it started. So when you say you're going to run a cohort, all of you have seen that when you signed up with your register to be a G4G mentor with South Africa, you were asked to pick from a group of cohorts which one you would like to join. So what happens is that, for example, there are some people who signed up for University of Johannesburg. When Boipuso says, great, I'm now getting ready to set up my cohort. I've assembled I'm assembling my coordination team. Give me the data. I actually did that, I think, today. We give access to the cohort coordinators or the cohort team. Sorry, that's Violet. We give access to the details within the database. And that's why we ask everyone, before you even get trained, please sign into the database. So it means everyone who wants to be with UP, UJ, whatever, we know, we have your contact details. But in addition to people signing up on the database, you might think, oh my goodness, based on the number of girls I want to reach, I actually need 20 mentees, but I only have 14. So how do I find the 6 more? So cohort coordinators are encouraged to recruit. I think Karima had actually done the math. We had done the math with her, and she was like, if everyone from last year could have recruited 3 more mentors, we would have hit the target of 350 to 500 that we are looking for. So the cohort coordinators, you have that extra responsibility to try and get as many people on board. And of course, once you recruit, it's easy to then ask them to come over to your side. In terms of the cohort coordination teams, I would say look for people who you either have a historical working relationship with, because it's tough. You're going to get antsy. Tensions might arise. So it makes it easier when you're working with people that you already know. In institutions like UP, they have natural setups. I think Priscilla and Matete already work together in a common space that kind of like covers mentoring. They do, I think, extra activities for personal development for the students. So they already had kind of a system. And then there are people like Boipuso who have been amazing, as well as Violet, at attracting the right kind of skills around them. So you need to think through, who it is you need on your team. Boipuso is going to be covering that. But it makes sense to start thinking as early as possible, who is my coordination team going to be? For example, the multi-university cohorts, I see Zarina, Kini, and Alice, for example, have already come together. So Zarina is UCT, Alice is WITS, Kini is going to loop in other universities. So as cohort coordinators, you need to think in advance. The cohort coordination team are the managers of the cohort. So they need to develop the schedule. When the documents I talked about, the methodology, how you're going to approach, how you're going to recruit, all those strategies, it's the job of the coordination team to think through that, to complete the work plan, to complete the budget. If you need fundraising, you have to think through that. We at G4G Global are always available to help you, but we found that the teams tend to be extremely resourceful. They tap into their mentors and they're able to run forward. And they also schedule speakers, and Val is going to talk about that, because when we talk about the pillar called inspiration under G4G, it's about telling your story or sharing powerful stories. So it's one of the things good coordination teams do. They think through, who are the girls we're going to be reaching? What is a type of story that would inspire them? Who are the types of speakers? And you will be hearing from other people about how the balance between young speakers, more experienced speakers matters to hold the girls interested in the group, yeah? So I'm going to pause here. I don't know whether anyone wants to add. So ladies with experience, this is now just setting everything up. Boipuso is going to come and talk to us about what actually sits within a cohort coordination team. But anyone want to add at this point? Okay, I see Steffi nodding. Okay, is Violet back? Not yet. Okay. When she comes back, we'll ask her to add.
Yes, I'm back.
You're back. Sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know whether you heard what I said and whether you agree or whether there's anything you do want to say. You did a phenomenal job recruiting people for THMC. I think we had the funny situation of almost having as many mentors as mentees. So I don't know whether there are any tips you want to share with the team in terms of how to recruit people.
Yes, I wanted to just, I don't know how much I've lost, but I'll just share a little bit on a few points. So when you recruit people, make sure that, you give them that personal touch. Make sure that at least you know them, or they know you, or the people that they are recruiting, so that they understand the vision and the objectives of the program, and they understand how we work. So we're not expecting them to be the experts or to be lecturers or pastors. So those are the main important things that you just need to make sure that when you bring them in, they know exactly what is expected of them. Emphasize the issue of presence. If the mentors are not present, your cohorts or your circles are just going to be disaster, because they won't know what they are doing. And if the mentor is not or has not gone for training, please don't try and push them through, because you are going to get so many complaints, and you might actually lose quite a number of mentees because these people are not prepared and you don't know what they are doing. So it's very important that you have that clarity to the mentors before they even sign up. And if people are not there, don't be scared. Just, nicely ask them to leave, in a nice way, because really it's about the mentees more than us. I think, Rita, you have touched on the cohort team, coordination team. It's the backbone of the circle or the cohort. If the people who are coordinating are not organized enough, everything else is just going to fall apart. I think I won't go into details on that. And with the consultation with mentors, I think you have also touched on that. Normally, we have to make sure that there's a coordination team. We plan way ahead when we're going to meet the mentors, and that needs to happen closer to the time of the circle, so that everyone has a clear picture of how the session is going to run, what will be their roles, what will be the expectation, so that by the time the mentees are there, we know exactly what we are doing. Even if maybe a speaker did not show up or a facilitator, something happened, all of us can just jump in and run with the circle. And I think just the one part, I'm sure Val will touch a bit more on that, on the speaker. Very important that the people that you bring, you should first understand your mentees and brief the person properly, so that they are not on a very high level when they talk to the, for me, for instance, we had high school kids, and I brought the professor. So you can see that that they are not going to connect at all. So make sure that you brief them also properly, they understand what the session is about and what you're expecting from them. Thank you.
Thanks a million, Violet. Thanks a million. Okay. Okay. Any questions, any clarifications for Violet? Okay, so Violet's section is very closely, Violet has given you the big level picture of the cohort coordination team. She has told you it's the heart. Boipuso, am I right? I can't see my slides, but I think it's Boipuso who's going to walk us through the responsibilities of the different people in the cohort coordination team. Because sometimes you say we have a cohort coordination team, but who is in there and what do they do? Boipuso?
Okay, thank you, Rita. I think you and Val, as I was listening, I said, but these guys have already touched on what I have to say. But anyway, I will start by saying, with the cohort last year, remember when we started the cohort, we just came through and Rita had to do everything. But we learned from there, and that's why last year we managed to run our own cohort. And as the coordinator, it's important that you are in touch with your coordinating team. As Violet has indicated, how you and Rita, how you can get the team together. You keep in touch with them, make sure that they have the information, they have done the work that they are supposed to do, like sending out the links to the mentees and mentors, making sure that the reporting, the feedback forms are filled and submitted back. So it's like you are not micromanaging as such, but making sure that the team works seamlessly and everybody does what they are supposed to do. And if the other person is not there, then some of the the team members can take over that responsibility. And then when she comes back, she can take over, because sometimes it does happen that if the mentors coordinator is not there and no one collects the feedback forms, you lose that information and you can't want to come in the other session to say, can we please get feedback forms for session 2 and 3? You must make sure at least you get those feedback forms before the next session can start. So if the person was not there, then you can ask, or you do it yourself. Like unfortunately, Samantha was coordinating because of COVID. She was coordinating from Zimbabwe, and sometimes she wouldn't be able to join us. And I will take over. I'll ask one of the team members, can you just please forward the feedback form to the mentors or the mentees, and we share those responsibilities. So the team that Violet and Rita were talking about, it's you as the coordinator and the mentor coordinator, the mentee coordinator, and also you have somebody who can manage the online sessions if you are having the online sessions, and the face-to-face issue, because you can't do everything. So the mentors coordinator is the one that needs to make sure that all the mentors that have signed up because we get the list from Rita, like she said. I've already distributed the list to the team, and Samantha has responded because I highlighted on the spreadsheet which mentors have signed up for UJ and then which one. So I just said, for now we have 35 mentors that have registered. Please go through the list and make sure that the number is correct, and check who are double dipping, like doing UP and others, and then who are doing only UJ. Because now we need to start that process of communicating with mentors. She's the one who will now establish the mentors WhatsApp group. That is his responsibility, and keep in touch and informing them of the progress, what's going to happen. We keep them in the loop before we even start. We can't just, when we are about to start, wanting to communicate, like Violet said, that personal touch, to say, you know, this is where we are at the moment, and we are planning to start with the session. So please prepare yourself so that when we start, you are available. And that's what the mentor, and then make sure that when we have sessions, the mentors feedback forms are ready, to make sure that before we start, how many mentors will be available for the session, how many are not available, because sometimes you'll find that we have more mentees than mentors. But then when you have checked before, then you'll be able to say cycle 5 or cycle 6 will only have one mentor, or both mentors will not be there, even though we will appreciate if they all can be there. You'll find that some, because of different circumstances, they are not able to be there. Then you can ask a mentor from another circle to chip in, or you can send the mentors into other circles. Because it does happen that you'll find that the circle is without a mentor, or the circle is without a mentee. And so that's why it's important to have that mentor coordinator who can talk to the mentors and make sure that whenever a session starts, we are ready, all of us, and make sure that they also attend the prep sessions that we have a day or so before the actual session. Then we have our Mentee Coordinator. For us, our Mentee Coordinator, the way we chose her, she was young, she's young, she's still young, it's Oradile. She's a student at the University of Johannesburg. And when we asked her, because we thought she's at the same age with the mentees, and I think when we communicate as elders, and sometimes our messages do not get through, and the way she communicates with them, they get it first time. With us, you write, and then you still have to come and explain. And so she agreed, and she kept our mentees, you know, up to date. She made sure that they register for check, like the mentor, to check with mentees. Will you be available for the next session? Everybody. I was part of that WhatsApp group that was formed by Uradile. And you could see the responses. They responded all the time, every time. She will ask, please, we need feedback forms, and they will respond. We have done the feedback form. So it's just to keep in touch and also to inform, you know, give them all the information. And what I like about Uradile is that she keeps on checking on them, not only about the sessions, but just to say, hi, how are you? You know, this is happening. I was just wondering. Like now, she has already communicated. She was communicating with the graduates to say, hi, I was just touching base with you. But she also did that also with the mentees, and they were able to communicate with her when they had issues and were not able to come. And because some will be, you know, like embarrassed or didn't want to talk to us, but they were free to speak to her. So when you choose a mentees coordinator, it should be somebody who is reachable, you know, that they can connect with immediately, and somebody who will be able to share information with them and check on them, even though there's no session, just to keep that connection going. Unfortunately for us, we didn't have a logistic manager, but it's something that we will have to plan now that the G4G team, RSA, will be moving to support the new cohort. We will have to make sure that we have our links ready, where we can manage online, because we still need to see whether we will continue with online given what is happening at the university. Our first term now, students will be doing it online, or we will be able to do face-to-face if things change, because we are planning to do it later in the second term. So we're looking the team that we have to see who can take over the responsibility of logistics or Zoom manager. It can be also one of us in the team, but I know people are waiting. Sometimes they take over too many responsibilities and cannot cope. So if none of us in the coordinating team can take over, then we will have to, I'll have to go and negotiate with one of the mentors that we have to say, we have this role for you. Are you prepared to be there? And be friends with whoever you are invited to say, this is what's going to happen. You will be in so many, WhatsApp groups. I can ask you, I think all of us, we are in more than 3 WhatsApp groups of G4G. So I have UJ, I have UP, I'm now in Botswana, I have the RSA. So there are so many things to manage, and you have to be honest with them and to say, once the session starts, expect communication from me or from whoever on a daily basis, and we meet more often before the session starts. That we have to meet as a coordinating team before we can meet with the mentors for prep session. Then we meet with our mentees for the session. So it should be somebody who then the person mustn't say, but you didn't say we are going to meet so much and I don't have time. So we also invited somebody. Then when she realized, I can't make it, then she said, you know what, thanks for the invitation, but I can't be part of this because now it's going to be too much and I don't want to spoil it. For NME, we also have to have somebody who will be writing reports. Initially, I was doing the reports myself, but then responsibility got too much. And as Rita said, you check your mentors. So I identified somebody, Ngobile, as we were running sessions, the way she interacted, the feedback that she was giving, and I approached her, and she was willing to be part of the coordinating team, and she took over the reporting responsibility, and we managed to get reports out of every session before the next, because you have to submit the report before the next session can be on. So she managed to do that. So social media reporter, we don't have the social media report, but I think it's a role that we also need to look at, because I know Karima is the one responsible for RSA G4G, but I think we also need somebody. But like the note is saying there, you can have somebody else also taking up that responsibility, linking with Karima to say, what is it that we need to do as a cohort or as a circle as to fit in to the bigger picture of G4G. So everyone in the team has their own responsibility, and make sure that you are, like, you are hands-on. You make sure that everybody is there. And like Violet said, when you have mentees that are absent and are part of the group, maybe sometimes they're afraid to leave. And I decided last year, you know what, I need to write an email, WhatsApp, inform them to say, this is what I'm planning to do. So those that are not part of us, I'm going to be removing you, or you are welcome to remove yourself. Like I said, we are in so many groups, sometimes it's confusing. And you also need to maintain that contact with people that are active, because now you don't want tourist mentors. Today they are there, tomorrow they are not there. Or the coordinating team, a person is there today and tomorrow is not there. So we need to work together. And as UJ says, we are a family. So we are building a family here, and we will be continuing again this year with the family. And I have looked at the list that Rita has sent to us. We already have 38 mentees that have registered, and Oratile is already checking them to say, you registered for UJ, are you still interested, and things like that. And we are planning to meet next week to consolidate the information so that we can put together that methodology and training team form to submit to Rita to say, this is what we have planned for. I think I've touched all that was expected, Rita, unless there's something I've left out. Thank you.
No, sorry, I was busy looking for the mute button. You've done very well. I remember how Val and I used to giggle over calling it doing a boipuso, because boipuso would say to people, excuse me, you've not yet been trained. You know, we would see 48 people on the list, but there are 10 completely inactive people. So boipuso would do a boipuso and, you know, help ease people gently towards the exit. But I think it helped keep a core committed group. The UJ team was pretty commendable, yeah? So any comments? I'm seeing acknowledgements. Steffi, you're getting some inspiration. Yeah. Yeah. Because I know you and Kini are doers. So you guys, Kini and Marianne were doing everything, but it helps. It helps to have as many hands as possible. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just want, I wrote it in the comments, but I'm really inspired by her ability to delegate and make sure that all of these different roles are being filled. Because to your point, I think when we were running the diaspora cohort, I think probably Kini was wearing all of these hats, you know, so I'm thinking just the ability to be able to reach out to other mentors and ask them to fill in some of these roles would really help in terms of managing the workload.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Kini, you had said something earlier on that I think you were reminding us about starting
what I was saying, and it's something like tomorrow for our cohort, I'm going to start emailing the mentors so that, because we want to start in March, so those that are not trained have an opportunity now to do a training in February.
Yeah.
So it's a good, I just realized that not everyone has access to that form. So I'll send the mentors form to everyone. So you can see who has registered for your cohort, and then you can start emailing them to see if you're not trained, you can now join in February. Yeah. So that they train before, because I think most people are starting in March onwards.
So I've invited a couple, especially the older people from last year onto the database. But from here on, we'll see the ones who want to set up new ones. People like Joyce, I think we have not yet invited them. Any thoughts on circles? This is a long list, and I think I don't want to scare anyone who wants to set up a small circle. You don't have to have this many number of people. And it has to be a simpler model. I'm still grappling, and I'd love to hear ideas in terms of like what would be the bare minimum to be able to run a circle of like Joyce's 10 girls, cohort coordinator, definitely, but maybe the mentor and mentee coordinator can be rolled into one. I don't know. I'm looking at the experienced people, Val, Steffi, Kini, that can be rolled into one, right?
Yeah, I would say you need more of a mentee coordinator than a mentor coordinator. Yeah, because I think the idea of a circle is that everyone would be trained and have
there'll be like 2 mentors.
Yeah.
And so much of the admin falls away when you've got only 10 people. I think that's not this huge, you know, like admin burden. You definitely don't need all of that.
Yeah. And then maybe this is where you can get direct support. Karima, maybe you can comment here, like for people who are running really tiny circles, rather than them having their own person that does the social media, maybe we can help them a little bit better with more direct support. Karima?
Yeah, so we'll speak about it a bit more later, but essentially I think it's nice if both cohorts and circles are able to create their own posters and banners and things like that. So my thinking was that we create templates, and they just need to go and update their dates, and if it's the speaker, update a picture, but to have a library of templates that can be used.
That's a good idea.
Because so what we saw last year, Boipuso mentioned earlier, and I'm cutting ahead a bit, but Boipuso mentioned that we never had the social media reporter, and the reason that there wasn't one on both THMC and UJ was because I was actually part of those cohorts, so I was doing that function in the background. But as we get more cohorts and more circles up and running, it would be difficult to have the social media team, or you would need a massive social media team to be able to attend all of these sessions. So the thinking was to appoint a sort of reporter on each of the teams, but we'll definitely come back to that later.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, or do we go ahead to now what the Mentee Coordinator does? Okay, so we're going to hear from Miss Priscilla. She has this amazing, she always says, "Good morning, lovely ladies," and I know that there's a request that's coming. But Priscilla and Matete coordinated the biggest group of mentors, and really great job that was done last year. So excellent experience to draw from there. Priscilla?
Yes. Thank you so much, Rita. Wow, I think the part that I have to cover has been partly covered by Mebubuso. Although what I think is important for us to know is that every mentor should be registered. And what we are responsible for as mentor coordinators is, firstly, we need to recruit the mentors. And when we recruit the mentors, we need to understand fully what G4G is about, because you cannot recruit people when you don't know what G4G is about. And when you recruit, it's important to try and recruit as much people as you can, because you need to know the number of the mentees, the target of mentees that you want to get to. And when you recruit those mentors, it's very important to also recruit good professional people. And it's also important to get good professional referrals as well. So for instance, let's say I recruit Rita. It's important for me to say, you know what, we need more mentors. Talk to your immediate mentors. We need more mentors for this group, because at the moment we've got so many girls that are registered or who have signed up. And with Rita having a professional background, she will get someone else who is passionate about this, and someone else who will represent our structure and the girls very well. And it's also important to recruit people who are inspired in motivating and in growing our girls, and who have got good life experiences, who will share beautiful stories with our girls. After the recruitment process, every mentor is required to attend training. I think I need to emphasize this, because if you do not attend training, or as a mentor coordinator, you do not inform your mentors to attend training, they're going to be lost. Trainings are very, very important, in a sense that it doesn't matter how many trainings you attend. May Joyce mentioned that I think she attended 3 trainings, but according to me, she attended more than 3 trainings. And that came in very, very handy, because with every training session, you pick up something new. Even as a mentor coordinator, I learn something new every day. Even with this session today, I am learning something new. So it's important to make sure that your mentors attend training, so that they understand clearly and fully what the program is about, so that they'll be able to deliver good quality work to the mentees. Then once they all have attended training, then you need to make sure that they sign the NDAs, which are non-disclosure agreement forms, and they also send us a 1-page profile. The 1-page profile, basically, it's us wanting to know, who are they, who are you, where do you come from, where are you, and where are you going? I think, Rita, we loaded onto a database which is accessible to our mentees and our mentors, so that should you need assistance with maybe psychology or social work or mentoring in a specific field, you know exactly who to go to. Also, after the recruitment process, we need to manage the mentors. With managing the mentors, what's important for me, what I realized was important, was communication. Communication is key. We need to communicate with our mentors. When you communicate, communication builds and maintains relations. Because if you don't communicate to your mentors, they'll be lost. And when they're lost, you're going to lose them. Like what Kini just said, she posted this on the chat just now, that because Rita has distributed the list today, it's important for you to reach out, start communicating to your mentors to say, listen, hello, here we are going to start with the sessions, and this is when we're going to start. With the communication process, it's also important to have a schedule. Disseminate a schedule. Karima just spoke about it now. Disseminate a schedule with dates. With the dates, you are basically informing your mentors, when are we going to have prep sessions? When are we going to have the actual sessions? And with those two important dates, then at least they can plan around their own lives, because what we need with managing them is commitment. Once you've sent out the schedule, then it's easy for them to be able to commit. Once they committed, then you know that you will have your mentors throughout all 6 sessions. We normally do not have back-to-back sessions from session 1 to 6. So it's important for them to plan. Maybe Buso also mentioned that there's mentors that sign up for more than one cohort. So I remember when we started at UP last year, we started with some mentors who came from the UJ cohort, so that attend UP in the morning and then attend UJ in the afternoon. But all that came out of commitment, because we did disseminate the schedule earlier so that they know when they can plan around their lives better. Mentors should also be held accountable for regular attendance. With us holding them accountable is, once you've disseminated or shared the schedule with them, and you are sharing constant communication with them on when trainings are going to be, when prep sessions are going to be, what needs to be done, what needs to be prepared, then you can hold them accountable, because they can't just keep quiet and not say anything. But also, as a mentor coordinator, it's important that you constantly go back to your WhatsApp group, because usually I think most of us do this. We create WhatsApp groups for our mentors where we can share information easily. Go back to that group, check which mentors are active, check which mentors have done training, check which mentors are attending sessions and meetings, and then go and ask them on the side to say, hello, ask people, so I see that you're not active, what's the problem? That's part of the communication part, that's part of you maintaining the relationship. And then you can hold the person accountable to say, listen, because we're starting with sessions, I need you to be accountable. And what I realized with that is, when we started with our sessions, mentors, just before the beginning of the first session, a lot of mentors came back and said, no, you know what, I can't do this. And because I know Rita was worried that we've got more mentors than the mentees. But because of communication and because of commitment and holding them accountable to say, you are still in the group, you're still in the group, but you're not saying anything, you're still in the group, but you're not saying anything, what's happening? Then they realize that this is important, then they decide to leave. So it's important for us to communicate with them, have that good relationship with them. And what I also think is important with the communication part is, you as a mentor coordinator needs to be available and also involve them. Availability is important. Our schedules are not the same, and there's people that can WhatsApp you during the day, while during the day you are busy, but make it a point that you do get back to that person and reply back and tell them whatever, reply back to whatever that they have asked you. So being available and involving the mentors is also important, because you're going to lose people without knowing where you went wrong or what the challenge is. So talk to them, and then life will be great. And then with the last part, we need to inspire our mentors in order for G4G or our cohort to grow. It's important for us to continue attending training sessions, and it's important for the mentor coordinator to constantly remind the mentors to also attend prep sessions. Prep sessions are important. It's sessions that happen 2 days or a day before the actual session. That's where we prepare the mentors on what's going to be happening on the actual day of the training. Because if they don't attend the prep sessions, they're going to be lost. And with them being lost, they're going to lose the mentees. And that's not what we want. What we want is, we want to build and inspire and motivate these young girls. So that's basically, in short, that's just what the mentor coordinator is responsible for. So with the trainings, it's important that you attend so that you understand the intensity. It's only 6 sessions. G4G only has 6 sessions, but with the 6 sessions, they're very intense and require dedication and patience. They are very, very intense. You'll find that we start in the morning at 9 and we only finish at 12 or at 1, and that takes a lot. And with the girls as well, with the stories that they share in the small circles, these stories, they take a lot from you. So hence, it's important for you to commit, dedicate and be available, be there. And I think that's the hard work of the mentor coordinator. It's you being there for your mentors, them knowing that they always have a person that they can go back to for whatever that they need, whether it's clarity or it's information from whatever that they lost during a prep session or during a training, and what needs to happen in the next session. It's important for a mentor coordinator to be there and be involved so that you know what's happening in the lives of your mentors. So basically, the mentors, some of you are older than me, but you're becoming my babies because I have to look after you and I have to nurture you. And when I nurture you, I know that the mentees will be looked after. So at the end of the day, with G4G, I think we are all learning, we are all growing. So the sessions are not just for the mentees, they're also for us as mentors. Thank you so much.
Thanks a million, Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Can I just add one thing there, Priscilla? I'm sorry, Rita. It's just the other thing is when you are allocating mentors to circles, I think it's so important that you do a nice mix of your more experienced mentors with mentors that are not as experienced. So think about that. Think about maybe putting an older mentor with a younger mentor. Think about how you allocate your mentors amongst the circles as well. It really helps keep the equilibrium going.
Yes. Thank you so much, Val, for that. That is important.
Yeah, that was a big lesson from the 2019 cohort. It immediately opens the dialogue in the circles. Great. Good point, Val. Anyone else want to comment? Any other insights? Okay. So I don't know whether we've been clear about the WhatsApp groups. Sometimes what we do is we set up a cohort coordinators WhatsApp group. So a UJ cohort coordinators WhatsApp group or a UP cohort coordinators WhatsApp group. That's where those 6 or 7 people intensely, you plan, you whatever. So that even when you're now communicating with the mentors or communicating with the mentees, you actually look so seamless. It looks like, oh, things are just happening. So there are different groups. The general one for the mentors for UJ will be that. It will be more general, but the decision making happens within the cohort coordination group. So yeah, it's more WhatsApp groups. If you can figure out how to do it better, good for you. But there's no way that you can skip not having kind of that regular touch base with your cohort coordination team, yeah? Okay. All right, so we keep marching on. We're going down that list. So we've talked about managing and inspiring the mentors. Kinney, managing and inspiring your mentees.
Okay, when it comes to the mentees, so each cohort will determine who they're targeting. It's easier for cohorts such as UJ because it's obviously UJ students, UP students, but for other cohorts, it's good to have a common thread. So for example, in our diaspora, it was people that have roots in Africa living in the diaspora. So in Europe and America and where were the rest from? Czech Republic, wherever they were from. So it's nice to have that whole, because it's something that brings them together. In our G4G multi-university cohort, what we're looking at is bringing together university students from different backgrounds with the common thread of their university students that's tying them together. So that's a good thing to look at. Consider age group. This is very key. We had this slight issue in our diaspora cohort where we had somebody very old and very young in a group in a circle, and some things don't work together. When you're older, you're looking for jobs, whereas maybe when you're younger, you're worried about your tests next week. So try and group them within similar age ranges so that nobody feels left out in a circle when they are together. So I think that's something you need to honestly think about properly. Are you going to pair your PhD students with your first years? They're at different points. So think of that. And then, yeah, a common calendar is also good. So with universities and schools, it's a bit easier because, we usually aim during school time. But be wary of holidays and exams, holidays and exams, especially exams. But exams, I think, have become more of an issue later on in the year. Right now at the beginning, it's a bit easier. Okay, so how we recruit our mentees. So first thing, as I said, there are many avenues to get mentees, and I think we've been very lucky to be with cohorts where it's easy to grab people. So your UJ, your UPs, Athlone girls, you know, they were all just in one place. But with now that we're branching out and many people are branching out, I think contacts are a good thing. Having somebody, so for example, Zarina is going to help us access girls from UWC and UCT, and then we're going to have Alice, who's at Wits, get girls, and that's a good way to recruit them. But I will say one thing, and I think I get asked this a lot of the girls are like, okay, great, this G4G, but what is G4G? So maybe it's good to have like a little paragraph or a little introduction for them to G4G, so that they know what they're signing up for. I remember UJ, some of the mentees thought that they were there to mentor, and they didn't know they were there as mentees. So maybe some clarification on what's going on, so that everyone understands. So yeah, I think that's good, just to share with them what G4G is. As mentors, when you do the training, that's actually a good idea. We do need a flyer, maybe. That's a good idea, Gloria. Mentors already know because they do the trainings and all of that. It's for mentees, it's a bit of what's going on. And also, when you are recruiting your mentees, also mention the dates and mention that it's 6 sessions, and they have to attend each session. Well, 4 out of the 6 sessions. Those key elements are important so that firstly they can plan just like the mentors, and secondly that they're aware that they are attending 6 sessions, not just 1. Okay, so once you've recruited girls, you will send them the mentee registration for 2021. Oh yeah, Patience makes a good point, a good elevator speech, that's the word. So you send them the link for the registration for 2021. So it's one database, and then what we'll do is that I'll send out each cohort's mentees. Why we do that is that so that we know who has registered, we have all the information. Just make sure, because I know last year with Asnath Mahapa, some of the girls registered for a different cohort accidentally. So just make sure you mention to them which cohort they are registering for. So make sure they know the name of it so that they click on the right one, because we had a lot of that mix up last year. So once they've registered, once each cohort has received their name list of mentees, the first thing I do is a WhatsApp group with all the mentees that will be joining the cohort. WhatsApp, because it's one of the quickest ways to communicate with girls. Sometimes they don't check the emails for like a day or 2. So it's good to have a backup communication system. So WhatsApp and an email works really well. So in case maybe they don't have data, but they on their school's computer and going through the emails, then they'll have it there too. So that's a good form of communication, so they don't miss out on anything. And then they sign NDAs and receive their mentee guidebooks electronically. So that's the first 2 steps. So because of COVID and because of how weird things have been, last year we sent out an extra form for each cohort asking about devices and blah, blah, and if they have access to internet and all of that. This year we've done that in our main registration form, so you have that information already, so you don't have to send them an extra form. So we've got that already. So you already know which girls would require data, which girls don't have access to devices, and which girls, things like that. What you might want to ask them is if they're available for the times. But I guess they could also just look at it and decide if they're joining or not. So maybe you don't need a form for that. Don't do any forms. Now that I think about it, but do share that information of when it is, so then they can decide if they can or cannot join. So when you do the communication, make sure once in the WhatsApp groups, just remind them again about attending the 4 sessions, completing their NDAs, and then making sure they get their books, and then the times and dates. Yeah. And just every time you have a session, keep talking to them, keep them engaged, keep them motivated, because I think sometimes they'll think, oh, okay, we just had a session, let's, nothing is good. Send them posters of who the speaker is for the week, what time the new session is. So we do a poster every time we have a session, so that they know. They have to register for the Zoom link. They have to, they know who the speaker is, so they can start maybe looking up who the speaker is. And then they also have to do the homework of sending the videos and completing the book. So keep maybe like posting on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Friday, or a Monday and a Friday, just to make sure the group is still going and that they are constantly informed until the end. Okay, I think I've covered it all. Any questions, comments? You're mute.
I'm looking for how to unmute myself without moving on to the next page. So we have a standard WhatsApp, that message, Kenny, you were talking about, where we have embedded the G4G website and things like that. We need to give it to Karima to make it more attractive, because it's a lot of text.
Yeah, it's a bit old now.
But it has all the key information. And I think about UP, and we got, Priscilla, was it 400, over 400 people registered from UP. So yes, Priscilla, what did you guys do right? But then we had a big drop off because it was COVID. A lot of the girls said, no, we want to do this thing in person. Priscilla, can you just share that? And I'll say that for me, what is keeping me up at night right now, and I'm not sleeping well, is that our mentee registration is suboptimal. Before we close this session, I'm going to show you the data. We seem to be doing right on the mentors side, but we're not doing right on the mentees. But I told myself, maybe my ladies are just waiting to roar, but we're still not doing things right. But Priscilla, can you just share with us how you shot up from, I think, 20 to 400 in the space of a couple of days?
Okay. I think what we did at UP is we were not focusing on a specific class or a specific department, but we did to the university as a whole, so the whole institution. So with that, we spoke to the deans in all 9 faculties, and we also spoke to residences to say, this is what G4G is about. We've got this new program that's coming up. This is what it's about, and it's targeting young girls. Preferably, we were targeting 2nd, 3rd, and postgrad students. Because those are the girls that we think in the next year or 2 will be leaving university and be facing the working environment. So hence we wanted to empower them. So with the residences and the faculties, then the information just went. So the heads of departments and the head of residences sent the information to the girls, and that's how we ended up with 420 girls.
So
I just want to add to that. I remember, I think our first year, it was our first year with UJ, I had to send something, and one of the girls said, why don't you ask the girls by posting on their Blackboard, which is like their system for all of them. Yes. So yeah, so that's why I spoke to Rita about this the other day, that why it's slow now is because those systems aren't really started yet, because school hasn't started. But once you're on it, it spreads. When you get the heads and the students are back, it spreads so fast. And you get all your girls registering.
Yeah.
Now everyone's at home all over South Africa.
The reason I'm pointing this out is because we've got very ambitious targets at Girls for Girls. We are hoping that by 2025, we will have reached 1 million mentees. I was doing the math for South Africa. It means that, like, literally within a couple of years, we need to have reached hundreds of thousands. Okay, this might be nice, big aspirational goals, but who wants to put in all this work? And all you're doing, you have a whole committee, you're going through so much, and all you manage to reach at the end of the day is 10 girls. Yet, if you had marketed well, you could, for the same amount of work, you could have reached 100 girls. That's all I'm asking you guys to think about, how many more people can we reach by your voluntary services? Value for money, is the economics concept about it. So we try and get as many girls as possible. I think the other thing we also need to recognize there's a high drop-off rate in some instances.
Oh, yeah.
Some higher than in other places. So that's why I keep calling these segments and inspiring your mentors and inspiring your mentees. It's one thing for them to start, then you start seeing the numbers slow down. So even once they've registered, we need to make sure that if 100 registered, then okay, we forfeit 5 or 7 or something like that, but let's try and retain the girls. So please keep that at the back of your mind. It's a real risk. It is heart-wrenching. You do so much work and you sometimes ask yourself, okay, are we doing something that is wrong? So please, just the tips in here, I think, are excellent in terms of getting the ladies on board, but yes, also keeping them on board. Huh? Okay, conscious of the time, oh my goodness. Delivering the mentoring session. So over to Val. This is the heart of basically what we're here to do. Val?
Thank you, Rita. So I guess the key to delivery of a successful cohort is, as everyone has mentioned, your planning and your accountability of your coordination team and of your mentors. The planning we cannot overestimate. What's the word? Sorry, I can't overemphasize, not overestimate. It's been a long day, sorry. And I think a present coordination team, that's also key. Like, and Boiputso mentioned it, choosing those people that you know you can count on, those people who, and also making sure that you give them the things that they're good at doing, right? You saw what those various roles are. Don't give somebody who's not interested in social media the social media role. Don't give someone who can't relate to the mentees the mentee coordinator role. Those are very important. And then I think what you're going to start thinking about now is you start thinking about the content, because as you're planning, every session is tied to the content. You've got to deliver 6 modules. Each one is specific to those modules. And whatever you're doing is about that content and making sure that you deliver that content in the best possible way. With a speaker that's the right speaker, with the mentors being trained, being ready and prepared to actually deliver those sessions, with the right role plays, with all the things and tools that you need to bring to that session to make sure that you actually achieve the outcomes of the sessions. Every session has an outcome. And so you must be very clear on what those outcomes are as a coordination team, and you've got to make sure that the mentors have those ideas actually set up, and know those ideas as well, that you all are on the same page in terms of what you have to deliver after 6 sessions. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly go through what the overview of the session is. But then I want to just show you one of our working checklists. And I'll give you a blank template for this, but actually I want to show you a working one. So you can see like how much there is to think about and how organized you actually have to be. There's a lot, when you're thinking about big cohorts, there's a lot of planning that goes in place. Okay, so we said 6 sessions. And obviously, once you run your 6 sessions, you can then decide, and if the mentees request, they might say, would you mind giving us another session on job interviews or how to prep my CV, or possibly on topic. They might ask, depending on the kind of relationship that you built up with them through the circle, through the delivery of the modules, they'll might ask for something additional. And that's wonderful. And you've already got your core team, you've got the profiles of the mentors, you know who the experts are in that. You can decide who can help you deliver those different modules or those extra modules. Before each session, during each session, after each session, there are key activities around all of these things. Before each session, you've got to make sure that your mentors are prepped. And there's a prep session that that Priscilla mentioned, 2 days before you actually have your mentoring session, okay? In that session, you actually go through a set of slides that's got to be delivered by the facilitator for that session. And you talk about what you want to achieve. You talk about how you're going to deliver. And then also, whoever is doing facilitation for the session has got to produce another set of slides, and not a lot of slides, because actually you don't want to be using a lot of slides online. You want to be communicating more with the mentee. Those just key concepts in the slides for the actual session. You want to review content, you want to plan for the skits, decide who's going to do the role plays. Involve the mentees in the role plays as much as possible, so your mentee coordinator and your mentor coordinator must be aligned there. And then, of course, key important to the session is making sure that you discuss and you prep the speaker, all right? They must be briefed about what the session is about. Share the videos with them. Share the videos for the session with them so that they also understand what you're trying to impart in the session. we've often found successful is that you actually invite the speaker, if they have the capacity, come to your planning session on the Thursday night. Then they know where they fit in the program, they know what you're trying to achieve, they know what other activities are happening, so they can actually almost like know how to fit their speech into that. Look, it's a challenge because a lot of them are really busy and they don't have the capacity for that, but you've got to have that prep session. And then you want the mentors, once they know which circles they are allocated to, the mentors themselves who are pairing on the different circles, they need to plan. They need to actually have a separate little call going, okay, this is how we're going to run our circle. These are the things we must talk about. And so there's definitely a level of preparation that's involved on the coordination level, on the mentor level, but then on the circle level as well, because your circle is where the magic happens. If you have mentors who are unprepared in the circles, you're going to have challenges. Okay, the other things you've got to do, you've got to circulate the videos at least 2 weeks or minimum a week to the mentors and to the mentees. There are four videos that must be shared, and those must be given in advance, and you must make sure that you cover that as homework for each session when the facilitator is speaking. Then you've also got to organize your data purchasing for your mentees, and then make sure that all your logistics are attended to. Something so important here, and we've learned this lesson hard, and Rita will back me up here. You cannot be a Zoom coordinator, breakout room, and be a mentee or a mentor and facilitator. It's too hard. Don't think that you can do it. You're not. You need someone who can actually be that only, and then whoever you use mentoring can go and do the other things. Unfortunately, trying to coordinate people getting cut out, losing data connection, coming back in, you just don't add value in the circles if you're going to try and do both of those roles. Yeah. Right, then in the session itself, you must have a facilitator for each session, choose who they are in advance, and I'll show you on the checklist how we do that. You lead the full session, you tie everything together, make sure that you're connecting all the dots, hand over the key messages, introduce the speaker, choose your people to do the icebreakers and all those kind of things. And then, of course, at the end of the session, wrap up, make sure you give them the homework, make sure everyone is clear that what they have to do when they leave that session. We're finding a good thing is to actually post the feedback form link in the chat as you're ending that session. Post it in the chat so they can do it immediately, and then you send it to them again afterwards, just to make sure that you're getting that feedback. The feedback is so important, guys. And I'll talk about that now after session that you've got to do. Then make sure that you use the mentees either to read my sister's prayer, use another mentor to do an icebreaker, try and bring people into the program where you can, make sure that it's inclusive as possible. And then make sure that you have a circle lead for each circle, right? If you've checked on your attendance beforehand and you know who's going to be there, make sure that you do have circles that everyone has a mentor or that they have supported, they're the only mentor. Try and make sure that you've covered. After each session, you've got to collect attendance per circle, make sure that you know who's been there and who hasn't, obviously, because you need to know who's going to graduate. Everyone has to attend 4 sessions to graduate, that's mentors and mentees. Also need to make sure that you collect your feedback. And then once you've got the feedback, you then have to distribute it, okay? So your feedback from your mentees will then go to the mentor group, and you want to, so they can see what the mentees are saying, that they know where we must correct or where we have to make adjustments. Your mentor feedback then goes to the coordinators group so that they can see what the mentors are thinking and how they would like to be, what they'd like to change or would like to improve. And if you respond to that feedback quickly enough, you try and get it out like 2 to 3 days after, after the sessions, you find that you can quickly pivot to make sure that you're actually getting through everything that you need to and you're actually giving them what they're asking for. And that's it. When you get that magic going, where there's a lovely, we want this, and you give them that, you just get this, it's beautiful to watch. Where Puso is, and Priscilla have both, in terms of coordinators, made that magic happen in their cohorts. All right, and then of course the report writing and then sharing on social, and sharing of what pictures, etc. on social media, and sharing it on the various WhatsApp groups. Do you mind if I just share my screen, Rita, and the checklist?
Don't mind. Let me make sure you have rights. There you go.
Thanks. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
We can.
Okay, so we this was one that I took from AMF, from Ataf Mahapa Foundation, and by this stage I had been on 5 coordination teams. So this really evolved from all the experience of what we had gone through in the others. From THMC, which was the first online cohort, right through until ASAP Mahapa, which was the last cohort last year, I think. And we evolved in that way. So we had our key responsibility areas, which were allocated upfront, and those stayed throughout the whole cohort. Even though the facilitators might have changed, those people were responsible for doing, in charge of the mentees, in charge of the mentors, who was going to manage the speakers and recruit the speakers and find speakers. We actually had someone to do that. We had online platform and admin. We did who was going to do, what we decided is that for the reports, that each facilitator would do their own report for their own session. You don't have to do it that way, but it worked for us because they were leading the sessions, they could take out the key takeaways. I did the feedback forms for every session. I think there are standard templates that you can use. Rather just ask for those than to go and recreate them. We're trying to get standard feedback. We've done enough calls, I think, now to have those forms that we can share with you to use for each session. And the key takeaways you want from each session as well. So that's really important. And then the session packs. So we also have those. We have session one mental packs. We have session one, actual mental packs, the sessions that you can use and adapt for your session. So that material is available. You just need to ask for it. You don't have to go and recreate the wheel, but you can just change it for your cohort specifically. The agendas, there's facilitation, there's prep packs, that's all there. You just need to ask for it, all right? We had a full schedule which we stuck to. We set to our dates. We said when we were having the planning sessions, we shared this with the mentors and the mentees. We told them who the facilitators were going to be in advance, and we told them who the speakers were going to be in advance, so that they had this clear information. These were the key activities we had to do before we even started the cohort, and we made sure that we had all of those ticked off. And then you get into your prep. And you can see it's detailed, but I promise you the delivery is in the detail. And actually something that is quite, you might think is quite minor, could end up being a huge amount of work if you miss it. You don't want to miss it. You want to make sure that you get the stuff all up front. You know, sending the Zoom links in advance, preparing the slide pack, using the templates, sharing the videos. Like, you know, we actually, and this, I'm embarrassed to say this, after 5 cohorts, I forgot to share a mentee handbook with mentees. I only did it like after, I completely forgot. After 5 cohorts, I've done 5 cohorts, but it was not on my checklist. And so guess what? Boom, I completely forgot about it. So we only ended up doing that like halfway through the cohort, I think, you know. So that's really important. But I mean, you've got to think about those things in advance. I'm not going to go through there's simple things like sending a voice note, encouraging attendance. There's simple things like coordinating with the social media team, confirming who's attending in advance. Like those little things just lead themselves towards a more successful session. Like the more proactive you are, the better you are. And then making your session, in terms of your session planning, guys, that time goes quickly and you get derailed quickly, you know. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be run like but if everyone's aware of what is supposed to happen in that session and who's doing what, the session just runs more smoothly. You don't have this backwards and forwards. Oh, now it's your turn. Oh no, who's doing this? You know, if you know who's doing what and the responsibilities are clear, it's easy to carry on from here. And then after the session, of course, following up, report writing, feedback form, summarizing message, organize summary video, track attendance, etc. I've got it all on here. I'll clean up this template. I'll share it with you guys so that you've got it. And we had one for every single session, but we just basically rehashed it each time. And what's wonderful, it's actually sometimes it's a good thing to use for when you're doing report writing because you've got all the stuff here. Then it's easy to remember what you know, and then you've got your like skeleton in terms of that stuff. And that's me. Sorry, that was a lot of information. But yeah, that's it. Any questions?
But I sit back and I think about like where we started off. If when I look at the first, you know, the planning sheets that we had with just Rita and Kinney in 2019, you know, and then every time I kept on thinking to there's a time, Kinney, we had a session and we didn't take any pictures. We're like, oh, what happened? and then you added. So Val, you know, it's like that checklist doubled in terms of pages. But I know that even by next year, we'll have it even to a finer, you know, to a finer whatever. And we have one, this one is the online one. We have one for the in person, which is, it's another thing. There's transportation, there's the venue, now it's not to scare you. It's just to say to you that we've built and we've learned from every mistake we have had in the past. And all of that is now coming together. And if you ever panic, you have all these sisters to be able to call upon, yeah?
Sorry, I've just seen a good comment in the chat from Siadimo. If the mentees struggle to watch the video beforehand, what we often do is we start the session half an hour early. We bought them data for the session, so then they can actually come to the session half an hour earlier and watch the video before the session. So that's one solution about getting around people watching the video. That's for mentors and mentees, but the mentors should have watched it before the planning session. The mentors must have watched it before the planning session, otherwise they won't know what's going on. So that's just one tip in terms of the questions there.
Edith, yeah. I see Edith is saying she feels overwhelmed. So Edith, this is what I would advise. Before you attempt to run your own circle or cohort, join someone. Join Val's team, join Kinney's team, join Steffi's team, so that you can actually see it in action. This thing works out beautifully. Once you understand the role allocation and that every person does their bit. For now, it looks like a lot, but if everyone does their bit, it actually pulls together. Look, Kinney and I did, I think, the majority of in-person, which I think are more hectic, in 2019, pretty much as a small coordination team. So it shouldn't overwhelm you. It shouldn't dissuade you. Do it easy and be easy with yourself. Join a team, learn, and you will be running on your own. Okay.
Also, what really does help is that at some point you get into a flow. Everybody has their roles. I remember with the diaspora, I knew that Steffi would do something and Marianne would do something. So, we all had our roles and we just knew it. Even our check-in meeting as coordinators, it became a bit useless because it was just we're just reconfirming we're doing what we've been doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why I said at the beginning, choose your cohort coordination very carefully, because you want people who won't disappoint you. You want people who you build trusting relationships with, because it gets intense. So if I say to Val, put up the slide, she won't say, oh, you didn't say please. she gets it. It's the way we work, with each other. And have that culture. Boipus also has her way of working, So it's we're not here, to work. It's really out of passion that we're here. So yes, pick the right team and ease yourself in slowly by slowly. All righty. I'm conscious of time, so we're going to move on to the online sessions. This one should be quick. Oratile, are you there? Oratile, is she there? Oratile? Or did she drop off? Okay, I don't see her. Okay, and Val has already covered some of these things. Kinney talked about the fact that this time we're trying to be efficient. The girls have already told us whether they have access to equipment. Not only do you have data, we have even asked, do you use Vodacom, MTN, whatever it is? It means as planners, you will be able to say we have 15 girls who use Vodacom, 10 girls use MTN, that type of thing. But you need to know this information. This time we've helped collect it for you. You'll have seen in Val's list, there's a mini video that was created by Andiswa, a former mentee of ours, turned mentor last year, on how to use Zoom. But I think the kids have gotten it now, the young ladies have gotten it now, but we still share that because the online platform is unique. Data has to be sent well in advance. And this one, yeah, it's a skill. I always see in between Kinney, Andiswa, and Oratile. It was amazing. They had color codes. So they knew that MTN you buy at this time. But I saw that even the mentors became very good at it. Karima was able to buy Vodacom. She knew which pack to buy and that type of thing. So this is how you loop in your mentors. Another interesting thing we've done this year in the registration, we've asked people to indicate, more than being a mentor, what else could you help us with? So some people have said, I want to help with reporting. Others have said they want to help with cohort coordination. So we now can see who we can then say, oh, but Rita, you said this, can you come on board? Things like the data, it's where we've also capitalized upon. We typically knew who was buying Vodacom, Telcom, MTN, and that type of thing. Communication is harder in a virtual environment. It requires preparation. You'll see that when we're going into the first prep for your cohort, we will go back to what do you do online vis-a-vis in person. There's a lot that you miss when I am not together with you, and how to work around it, how to use the chat and things like that. For those who have never been in the sessions with us, what we do is Zoom has the breakout feature. So the circles, you end up in your own little room. Anyone who has been for the training has experienced that. And yeah, like we've said, there needs to be someone who does the Zoom logistics. I think Val and I almost passed out trying to facilitate, be the Zoom coordinator and that type of thing in the beginning. I remember thinking to myself, no, I'm going to have a heart attack here. So you having a Zoom logistics coordinator is good. You can tap into your mentees. My daughter has supported a number of cohorts, especially the splitting into the different rooms. So look within you. I think not only amongst the mentors, but even amongst the mentees, we might find a skill that we're able to use. Okay, so that's a quick one on the online session. I'm not, these are the reports. When we talk about the reports, the monitoring and evaluation reports, this is it. It is a standard that has been set in South Africa, and it's something that we now are going to be rolling out across the globe. So Val, the feedback forms and things like that, they're now standard because there's key information we're collecting, disaggregated to a certain level. So we're using templates. This is just a plugin. The last year, the G4G 2.0 strategy, in other words, G4G is revamping at a global level. One of the areas we are actually initiating, there was nothing to revise because it wasn't there, is monitoring and evaluation. So we're not going to go deep into this, especially for Team Botswana, the ones who said they want to, understand the reporting cycle. There's using the information we collect to inform the next session, but there's using the information we collect to inform even new modules to develop, to inform fundraising, to inform, future recruitments and things like that. The data we collect is very powerful. So I'm going to hand it over to Steffi to talk about monitoring and reporting. I think she's focusing on the session, and then I'll wrap it up later with like the bigger data uses. Steffi?
Thanks, Rita. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I think like Rita just mentioned, monitoring and evaluation is something that we take very seriously in Girls for Girls. And really South Africa has become, the leader when it comes to M&E, right? And what we like to do is always explain the why behind why monitoring and evaluation is very important. So for today, I'm just going to focus on the monitoring and reporting piece, and then Rita will come in for the evaluation piece, right? When it comes to the monitoring and reporting piece, when we say the why behind why we do that, there's an element of improving how we deliver on this program. So like Rita just mentioned, the reason why we do a report and we get feedback from both mentors and mentee after each session, it allows us to really readjust, realign as we prepare for the next session. So we take this very seriously, right? But it also gives us an ability to plan even beyond just the 6th session. Depending on what the needs of the girls are, we might decide to plug in additional sessions. So for example, when we were doing UJ, there was a session after the girls had graduated on CV writing, because that was something that they expressed, something that they wanted. But without these reports and getting feedback from them, we would have never found out, right, that there was that need and that gap that we needed to close. And also when it comes to the monitoring and reporting, it really drives accountability, right? We constantly report. As G4G SA, we report to the global team. So you would see that every cohort, every time they publish a report, they'll share it on the national group, on the SA group, but we also report it on the global group, right? And think about it in a way that even when it comes to fundraising, right, and we're wanting to tackle to these global donors, it makes it easier for us. to go and request funds when we can showcase what we've done, you know, when there's a very structured way to report on what we're doing. So I'm just going to run you through the different steps when it comes to monitoring and reporting. So before we start the cohort, right? So currently we're in the phase where mentees and mentors are registering, right? So when mentees are registering, there's a set of questions that they get asked, right? And some of the questions that they answer then form part of what we call the baseline data. And really the baseline data, it's very critical, because when we are, you know, when you've recruited your mentors, you're having your session, you're preparing to start and kick off the cohort, as mentors, it's always good to know what are some of the fears, the dreams, the aspiration that those girls have. It's important to know whether they currently have a role model or, you know, someone they look up to in their life. Are they currently occupying any leadership position? Really, it's good to immerse yourself in that data, right? Because then you get to know how to prepare accordingly to how you're going to interact with the girl. Personally, it even helps me to know when we get to the circle section on session 1, we call it building trust, right? If I already have an idea of what are some of the fears or things that the girls said they're struggling with, I know what portion of my personal story to share with them, you know, to allow myself to connect with them. And so really don't underestimate the power of that data that we call the baseline data. What I like about the baseline data is also when you get to session 6 and you get to the last report, right? When you're compiling the last report and you're reading feedback from the girls, you can look back on what they said when they started, you know, before they started the program, to what, you know, how they got inspired, how they start seeing themselves as leaders, you know. Some of them might have answered, oh, I don't occupy any leadership position. But by the time they graduate, we've made them realize that they're already leaders, you know. So it allows you to see the growth. So baseline is very important. Then when it comes to before every single session, so the coordination team, you'll have a person that you should, you know, make sure takes care of the admin of creating the Google form link for the mentors and mentees feedback form. So those forms need to be ready ahead of time so that when you're in the session, right, what we found during the session is that you want to remind them and encourage them of, like, remind them why it's important for us to, for them to provide us feedback, right? When we were doing the in-person cohorts, so if I can give an example of my cohort, which was the Athlon cohort, we realized that, you know, girls struggle to have access to data, cell phone, computers. So what worked for us was for them for us to allocate time before the end of the session, you know, for them to complete the feedback forms. So we were fortunate enough that the Rivers Foundation donated tablets, you know, so we can use the tablet for the girls to complete the feedback form, or us as mentors, you can, you know, give them your phone and then they complete it. We find that that would drive a good response rate, right? Because you want to get to a point where you at least get 75% response rate in order for you to write a good report, right? But, you know, it works differently when you're doing the online session. So for online session, we wouldn't necessarily dedicate time during the session, but you can remind them, you know, as you're closing off the session. And because the links are ready, soon as you know, on the chat on Zoom, you post the link. On the WhatsApp group, you post it, you know, and you encourage, you know, mentors to, even in their circles, because most of the time circles also create their own WhatsApp group. So encourage mentors during the week to say, you know, remind your mentees to complete the feedback form, right? Maybe if I can also share my experience, how the growth has been in writing those reports. I like to say it's a bit of a hate-love relationship. It's in the beginning, it really felt like a huge admin burden. But once so first of all, I want to say thank you to the team that put together templates, right? We have a template now, which makes it easier to write those reports. We know exactly what we're looking for. Another thing that was a huge learning curve for me, I used to spend a lot of time trying to narrate what we've done during the session. But these reports are really not about that. You know, Rita used to remind us, guys, you know, immerse yourself in the feedback. The most important section of the report is the feedback that we get from the mentees and the mentors, not necessarily to say, these many mentees attended the session, we had this guest speaker. Yes, it's important to mention that, but spend time, read what is the data telling us, you know, and really that set of data is very powerful. I mean, when Kimi and I were doing the diaspora cohort, for example, the girls early in the program shared with us that they wanted to have a longer, you know, tea break. You know, we take that very seriously, because having a group of people focused during more than 3 hours is very difficult. So you want to take that into consideration, give them, you know, a break to stretch, re-energize, and come back. Or they also gave us feedback around the fact that they wanted guest speakers that were younger, you know, that they could relate to. So we do take that seriously. So, and I think the last point on the slide speaks about the evaluation, and I think that's when I will hand over to Rita in that part. But really, we wouldn't be able to measure the success of this program if we weren't going to come back a couple of months ago to, you know, evaluate and assess what impact has it made in these girls' personal life? Have any of them, you know, taken any leadership position? Because remember what we're trying to do, G4G is about empowering girls to lead. So yeah, that's me. That's about it for the monitoring and reporting piece.
Thank you so much, Steffi. Anyone want to add to that? Okay. So the last bit is really about the evaluation. Last year in 2020, we did the evaluation for UJ 2019. For me, this is what gives me joy and validates. When we were starting out, we said we will run a pilot at UJ. We will look for proof that this program is relevant in South Africa and to the girls that we are targeting, and the data spoke, which is why I'm passionate about data. From the word go, the first UJ cohort in 2019, we started collecting data, and we have consistently used that data and analyzed that data. So for all the cohorts that ran last year, we're now going to be running the evaluation this year, and it's going to start around April. Okay, so we'll for those who are interested in M&E and will be joining, we're going to have a big orientation, and we'll be doing trainings for people who want to support G4G, particularly in the monitoring and reporting area and evaluation. We shall be training you on that. But this is just to share with you the power of the data. We do a lot of things, and we go back and we feel happy and glad, but what are the girls actually feeling? I don't think we're here to tick the box and say we ran 6 sessions. It's to ask ourselves, you know, how did the girls actually transform? How did they change? What are the things that matter to them? So we can see here, non-judgmental environment, and we're able to bring it back to the mentors and say, remember, Violet, for example, I said, you're not a preacher, you're not a pastor, but also the skills and the behaviors that were learned. And for me, this is the power I'm talking about. When we say that we can go fundraising, if we're to attract new partners and supporters of G4G, here's the evidence. The girls who responded told us 33% of them gained communication skills, 22% of them leadership and service. So this is why we do the evaluation. And we do it 6 months after the cohort has ended. to allow the girls to actually start applying their skills, and then we see what they did. I didn't put up my favorite slide. The thing that made me stop and I had tears in my eyes when I did the UJ evaluation was 75% of the girls that had responded had taken up leadership roles, either during the session, in other words, in 2019 while we were running, or within the 6 months that had passed. That's what we live for. So the evaluation is extremely important. But like Steffi had said, it starts in the beginning for us to be able to say, this is how you've grown. We're monitoring the girls. So it's the routine data that we collect. That's why our 75% target of the feedback is important from both the mentors as well as the mentees. And then we come back to do the evaluation. We triangulate the data, and this is what comes out. So we'll be doing detailed sessions on this. I thought I'd give you a flavor of what it looks like. And that, again, it's a plug-in for the cohorts that ran last year, that we're coming back to you. We won't make it onerous. We're looking for a model that will not add to your cohort coordination responsibilities. The evaluation will run as a special something. All we'll require from you is support, getting the assessment forms out, pushing it out there. Alice, if you're here, if you're still here through the alumni, that's where a number of the old mentees are. We're going to need your support in getting as many of them to respond to this. So for me, this is where we end. After we have done the cohorts and we're all feeling really great that we mentored, what was the impact? What was the effect? And this is it. So I'm hoping that all of you will buy into collecting the feedback and making sure that people get into that culture, and that together we pull together to do the evaluations 6 months after a cohort has ended, for us to be able to demonstrate that we are worthy. Yeah, okay. So I think that's it. I'm going to stop here because it's already 7:44. I know that we have different cohorts. We had said everyone would introduce themselves. You think we can do that in a quick way? Or any last clarifications? We're 15 minutes past the 2 hours, right? Yeah. Any last cohorts? Okay, so let people talk a little bit about their cohorts. So I think Asnath Mahapa had already introduced themselves. Joyce had introduced themselves. Val, you want to talk a little bit about Home of Hope?
Yeah. So my cohort, my first cohort this year is the Home of Hope, which is a refuge for women who have been, women and families who've been exposed to sex trafficking. So it's young women who are probably just out of school, university age. It's ranging in from 19 to about 24, 25. And we've got 20 mentees there. We are hoping to start in March now. I was hoping to start in February, but it looks like we're only be able to start in March because it's been delayed by the start of school because of the kids in the home that need to go to school and stuff like that. So the parents are feeling a little bit, the mothers are feeling a little bit under pressure. So yeah, we're gonna, I hope to do weekly sessions, but that's also, I've got to pin it down with the ladies in terms of when they can actually make it. But we will do a 6-week session, hopefully. And that's it so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who else do we have here? Which other, Kini, do you want to talk about the multi-university cohort?
Yeah, I think I kind of touched on it a bit, but my aim is, we're very Gauteng centered, but what also I want to do is reach out to especially universities that many people, I mean, I don't like, not the big universities, you know what I mean? So I'm getting in touch with Osmo Janka for the University of Venda. I want to get to Fort Hare, especially because my grandmother used to go there and my grandfather, so I want that connection. So I want to reach out to as many universities as possible and bringing people together, because I think so often we forget about these universities, and especially, you know, everyone's like, I want to go to UJ, I want to go to University of Pretoria, I want to go to Wits, but let's bring everyone together, let's bring South Africa together. So I want to reach as many provinces as I can. Yeah, so that's our goal. We are asking in our form to our mentors if anyone has connections in any university that's not University of Pretoria, UJ, Wits, and UWC and UCT. So if anyone here does have connections, please let me know. Yeah.
Fantastic. Is Gloria, is VUT going it on its own, or are you joining these guys to start off with and then you break off?
Rita, I think it will be key maybe to join this cohort from the beginning, because when I spoke to my HOD, he advised me to wait first until we open, because we really don't know what's happening right now. Because the only way that we were going to advertise to our students, it was through our ITS system, and also talking to the girls one-on-one in classes, because we were targeting the faculty, the Department of Logistics and Supply Chain Management, because they have issues in terms of finding jobs, but we wanted to encourage them that they could start something for themselves instead of just looking for jobs. So it will be better if they can start while they're still at the university, and as well as tutoring sessions, so that they can assist students from year 1, year 2, year 3. So the target was advanced and postgraduate students. I will be talking to him again and then explain the situation in terms of this multi-university cohort and hear what he says. That is why I was recommending that let's have a flyer that we can send to the students on our ITS and then see who is going to respond, and then they can join Kini.
Okay.
Wait, you've just reminded me. I thought M&E was the last because it normally is the last. Karima, my sincere apologies. And it's what everyone has been waiting for.
End, no stress.
Sorry, and it's what a lot of people have been asking for. I just got triggered when Gloria said the flyer. Sorry, Karima. Very important segment. Sorry.
I was going to add to the end, don't worry. So I know there's a lot going on with all the coordination work, and I know it might feel like the social media just feels like something extra that you need to do. But the reason we're really doing it is because it enables us to grow. So Girls for Girls has a global target of getting to 1 million mentees by 2025. So that's 4 years away. It's a massive target, and we're quite a long way from achieving that. But what social media allows us to do is it allows us to tap into extended networks. So if, for example, we post something and we tag Rita, and one of Rita's connections likes it, then that person's connections will also see Girls for Girls, and they'll also be exposed to it. So we're expanding the reach of Girls for Girls, which will eventually help us to get to our target. It also makes our jobs easier if we're looking for fundraising, as an example. So if this connection works at CELC, as an example, and they come across Girls for Girls through their LinkedIn, if the fundraising team goes through to CELC to request data, as an example, they'll already be familiar with it because they've been exposed to it on social media. So that's the reason we are on social media. It's to help us get to that bigger target and to reach extended networks that we wouldn't necessarily be able to reach one-on-one or with our on-the-ground activities. So in terms of the support, if you could go to the next slide, please, Rita. So in terms of support, I spoke earlier about creating templates where you can quickly create posters for upcoming events or upcoming sessions. But we can also look at using social media to recruit mentors, to recruit mentees. We have been doing that. We have had a couple of new mentor sign-ups who came across our posts on Instagram and LinkedIn, who've since signed up as mentors. So we can help with specific support for your circles and for your cohorts with a bit more detail to say as an example, Home of Hope is coming up. This is what it's about. If you'd like to sign up as a mentor, here's the registration form. So we can help with that as well. In terms of that reporter role that we spoke about, so I think Steffi, Val, Kinney, even Asnath have all had their turns to fill that role. But essentially, it's not possible for the social media team to attend every single session. So we would need some sort of highlights of what happened in the session. And it might be nice to maybe assign that to a mentor as well as a mentee to just take some notes. So if the speaker said something that stood out to you, or if there was a special moment during the session that stood out for you, to just make a note of that and then send it through to the social media team so that we can put together some sort of post about that. And again, the reason we do it is to create that transparency and to give people a feel of what Girls for Girls is about. So that when we're recruiting for mentors, when we're recruiting fundraising, it makes the job just a little bit easier, because we can direct people there and we can give them that insight. So the coordinators / reporter would need to send us their highlights of the session. And then also from a coordination perspective, when you're getting speakers, so often the highlights are what the speaker said that's made an impact for you. So we would like to get permission from the speaker to use their images, to use that snippet of their talk on our social media, and also just to get their social media handled so that we can tag them and also reach their extended networks. So social media is essentially our multiplier effect to get to that 1 million. And that's what we'd need from you, the speaker access, permissions, handles, and then after the session, the highlights of the session.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Karima. So so the other big group at global level that had its own committee was social media. Are you guys going to be doing anything at a global level? So that like guys from Botswana can know to put that in their diary.
Yes, so from Botswana, I know Botswana's been asking, there's a lot of stuff that's still happening. There were, I think, 10 deliverables from the social media subcommittee. We have completed a guide for setting up your social media. So how to set it up, how to do your strategy, what to look at, where to find your templates. The templates have been created as well. It's pending approval from the Secretariat. So as soon as we've got that, it will be published and it will be shared with everyone. But that has been a work in progress. It is completed, just pending approval. I know that the brand guidelines have also been completed. So because Girls for Girls is a global brand, we want to maintain some sort of consistency. So you would notice on the South Africa stuff, we brought in some South African flavor with the local design that we use in our banners. But we still try and keep some consistency with the Girls for Girls logo and the colors that we use in general. So that's really been nicely documented as well. Also pending Secretariat approval, so that we have that consistency across the globe. So whether it's Botswana or Kuwait or South Africa, it all looks like Girls for Girls. So that document will also be shared across the group.
Okay, thanks a million. Thanks, and sorry for that. Huh?
I was going to cut in at the end anyway, so.
Okay, but so back to the circles. Value had made note of the fact that there's a young professional cohort that you're starting end of March. Okay, yes. It's in there. Okay, I think we've lost quite a number of people. We've really gone over time. So unless there are any burning questions, let us know. Okay, Ledile is leaving too. Okay, So if there are any burning questions, feel free to shoot them over to us. You have the South Africa G4G email address. We'll try and get back to you. You also have our numbers. Keep the chat going on the WhatsApp group for South Africa. It's been a bit quiet of late, but there's nothing that hurts for you to say, here's a question. And we can then get the conversation going. People with experience will be able to answer you. It's a safe space. So yeah, with that, I think I want to just say thank you very much to everyone, the people who have co-facilitated. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And yeah, let's kick this thing off. Thanks a million. Huh?
Yeah. And Rita, can I just add, don't forget we've got the YouTube channel. It's got so much resources. You know, if you need anything, you can go and find stuff there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to keep putting that linked tree on the South African WhatsApp group, just to remind people how much of a resource base we have built up. We'll probably do this video as well, upload it there for the people who are interested. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.